Okay, so again, as I was saying, and I'm recording this so you can go back and forth. Uh, Revit to Rhino and back and introducing multiple elements that we are designing in Rhino, one way to go about it. So this is a project where, as you know, we're doing, and I'm thinking of a particular element that I can do in Revit easily. So that is in that corner, maybe relates to the roof, to the floor, maybe to the window, to more complex elements. So the first thing you need the frame or the framework of that environment. So that's that piece. And I'm just gonna go, as I mentioned before, and say file and export. CAD DWG. Here, make sure you go to the 3 points, say solids, you click on this option, just triple check is inches, good to go, and that the preview is the 3-dimensional. So you can export plans and sections. Those are orthographic drawings that you can open in AutoCAD, also in Rhino and so on, but we want the 3-dimensional space. So say next. I'm gonna give it name, replace, just, you can create, you could just save it on your folder, then go back to Rhino and forget about this, just open from Rhino. It's probably the best way to go about it. You open it, and the file you just exported, and say open. And make sure that model units and layout units are the same inches, and they correspond with the Revit format. Okay, so open it up. It takes a little bit of time. Here it is. So that's the project. Take a look at it. Shaded. And again, this is just the framework or of where I'm gonna do my thing, no? So I'm not gonna be paying too much attention to detail. That's up to you when you have more time. But I want to do something in the corner that maybe is like a cave-like space that links to the window or something like that. So we go to the plan by control tabbing. This is the front and top. So I'm going to do, I don't know, like a loft of curves. I'm going to set curves, just do something like curve here. Do a 3D and copy it several times. Oops, sorry. Press control, the arrow, and then you can copy this multiple ways. Sorry. Sorry, pressing Alt. And then I'm just changing a little bit the curves to create something of interest. We hide the roof for a second. So maybe this point, pressing the, I don't know how to change those guys. This comes here. This one's gonna come out more aggressively. Okay, something like that. Maybe another one going up, pressing Alt, moving some of those points. Let's back up. I'm gonna do a loft between these things. Triple check that this is more or less what you intend to have. Have different options, as you know, maybe loose, depending on what kind of approach or space you want to have here. You know already these commands. And I'm just gonna say okay. I'm gonna cap this guy, just capping the top and the bottom. And I'm gonna turn on the roof by click on show. And I'm gonna use this space as the thing to work on. One thing I could do from this shape is maybe turn it into a sub D, maybe, I don't know. We can explore that idea. So this convert all objects to sub Ds, select it, enter, press enter. Two of those, one of them is the sub D, so I made two of them, and then there was polysurface. So this one now is actually a sub D that I can, you know, select the faces and I can extrude them and do things with them. So that will be something difficult to do, obviously, in Revit. So I can go to the sub D criteria and do extrusions, for example, and do some kind of small variations of the extrusion. Let me see, like select faces and do subsets and then bring it out. That could, you know, create an environment here and we can work it out, like rotating a little bit or shifting the tension or the placement. You move this slightly. There we go. So that's kind of interesting thing. I'm gonna select this face and do something with it as well. Maybe I can do also another insert, and then I can do bring this one up, rotate it. You can do that again. Just put a sub D insertion there and bring it out as well. You can scale this. Double click that one and scale it as well, pressing shift. You can mold these things. Zoom select, rotate. You can obviously select just some edges and move them around to morph this in different ways. You can also select points and move them particular ways to create shapes. Anyway, so that's that. Again, I think with more time, you can probably organize this in more careful ways. Okay. That's one thing. Maybe I can push it in a little bit more. And I'm just gonna create just this particular pieces that I need. And what I'm going to do is just trim this element. So this is the monster, I guess, that is coming to me later on. I'm gonna also do a rectangle vertical and create here rectangle because I'm gonna do a trim of this. Extrude. curve. Solid, yes. That one, I want to do it from the other window here. Just rectangle, vertical. You will see where I'm trying to get at slowly. Okay. Show. I'm gonna turn this now into nerves. So that turns it into a nerve. So I can maybe now set these. This one, I can cap it the bottom. So that's actually a solid. I can do some kind of a weird thing, such as a Boolean difference of sort. This one enter this one. So it could be a weird thing there, like a platform to eat or just surface to stand in. And then I'm gonna do this ones, this ones, this ones, this one. This one, and this one, and extract or duplicate face border. I'm gonna plate a new layer, just say faces now, take them over there. And change object layer. So now I can turn everything off except the faces that I'm dealing with. So off that one. Wait a minute. This is gonna be the monster. Say monster. Change object layer. Okay, so now I have like a working environment that I can, potentially create surfaces out of this, or planar surface, or that. Planar surface, well, those planar surfaces will be joined. Planar surface. Or in this case, probably it's easier to do a box, for example. And you can do a Boolean difference between this one and this one. You chop out that. You can do another box. Difference between this and this guy. So it's working. Boolean difference. That's weird. There you go. So what I'm doing is just removing parts slowly. And the last thing will be maybe another box here using this space. Putting a difference between this one and this one. And then in this case, what I'm going to do is split between, no, split using this one. And then you can remove that piece. So you can also do a split between this one and this one and remove the piece. Oh. Split, notice to split this one, this one. There you go. So then I have this one that I can join. And this is basically a solid that I can work on. Okay. So this is like a simple element that ideally, again, you have it in a particular layer, in a particular color that you want. Let's just say red, just to make it evident, and with a name. So that's important. It has to be allocated in the exact location you want it to be. And once you're, done with the object, you can follow the steps to take it into Revit. Now, this is only one particular material. So in this case, I'm just going to do something slightly different. I'm going to do box from the top view here. I'll select that, put it here. I'm going to copy that one on top. Let's see what, okay, that I like. I'm going to do a Boolean difference between these guys. This one creates a kind of a carving thing. And then the other box that I copied, it's going to come in here and expand a little bit and shrink. So I'm just scaling this thing and creating a situation where there's a recess space there. So I'm going to do this and come here and do another Boolean difference between this one. Again, you have that little detail on the top. And I'm just going to, I could do this later on, or I could do it in AutoCAD. For now, I'm going to bring this as it is. So I'm just going to do in Revit the lighting, but I will show you afterwards that you can do it here as well. I'm going to do another detail here, like a cylinder. Go to the top, in front, bring it here. Maybe it's a space where there's a lighting as well. I'm going to do this. Copy it, pressing out and scale. This one's smaller. I'm going to do a Boolean difference again between this one and this one. There's still that element that I'm going to make it smaller and pops up. And maybe that's like a glass material with a lighting. So I'm going to create another layer. I'm going to call it Monster Light. As light. This might be actually the glass. I'll turn in blue. And put into that layer. And I'm going to copy this one, pressing out here and scale. Shift, scaling back. And this is going to be a lighting element. So I'm going to call that another layer, Monster Light. Change of the layer and yellow. Okay, so you know what's going on. There's a little detail I'm going to do here in Revit. There's going to be a recessed light here, so you won't see it, but then there's going to be a glass piece there inserted like a magical element. And inside of that, there's going to be a light. So glass light, and this is going to be like a Korean, kind of a nice, no, Korean's not acceptable sustainable wise. So it could be like a kind of a shiny material that is, yeah, I could also do now that I think. Let me show this, everything. Just to levels of complexity. I made this curve before. I'm going to do an offset of that inwards, just 1 inch maybe. And I'm going to select both curves, this one and this one, and extrude the curve. And just following, I guess, the weirdness. I want to create a framing that is a little bit of a different material frame in the window here. There you go. Okay, so that's going to be monster frame. Okay. Right click, eject the layer. Okay. Hiding that stuff, this stuff. I don't need all of the curves. I can just select all of the curves by going to selection here and hide. So these are the things that I want to take with me. The different items, different things that I care, different layers, and so on. So how do we take that to Revit? So we select the things that we want before doing that. Make sure it is where you want it to be. Remembering what level you want it to be. So that's going to be a floor level. And remember that each item that is part of the things you want to take to Revit has to be in a different layer, and ideally with a particular color, so you can identify it later on. Okay, so you select only those things, no curves, no other things, just the solids, so the parts that you want to take. File, export selected, and DWG. There you go. You give it a name, monster, inside my home. Center. You need to take it to solids, because otherwise the solids are not coming. You take it to the default, just make sure that's the case. Okay. Go back to Revit. And we are going to do a component model in place. And what is it? Is it a furniture? Is not? It's a little bit of a unknown territory. There's a multiple things. So in those cases, I probably recommend generic models, but furniture works well for some of those things because it is a little bit of a furniture as well. So you can say, okay, we give it a name, monster, corner, whatever it is. Okay, everything tones down, as you know, when you do a model in place, and you have the tools that are similar or closer to the Rhino environment. In this case, you do insert, import CAD, and you search for the thing. Here's monster inside my home, and then just make sure it's origin to origin and the level that you want to place it in. So in this case, level 2, say okay. Now it's quite of a complex thing. It might take time. It might even fail the process. We might need to go back to Rhino to edit and keep it more simple, but hopefully it works. So one thing we noticed that is not in the proper, level. So you can always just take it to the level. Maybe it was done from level 1. Yeah, so maybe the level 1 was the kind of a source of the creation. So just be aware that changing of levels might take it to a different level. And then you can finish the model. Now, you can obviously go and see the thing. You have the object that you design. And the big tricky part about this is the rendering part, is how do we access the rendering components for this piece? Because in level 2, you do have the cuts of the object as you need them, but you don't have access to the materials when you edit in place and select the objects. You can't really delete or explode. It does not work like that, unfortunately. So, and you don't have access to materials. So how do we actually do this? So the way you do this is to go to exhibit and graphics, VVG, and then you go to object styles, imported objects, and then you have here the different layers that you brought with their colors. So you can change the line weight of how they're being projected. You can change the line pattern and the color. Typically, these colors are not welcome, so you probably want to take it to a particular color of your interest. So maybe the glass is like a light gray or something. I don't know what is that you and the light might be a different color as well. And here's where you set the materials. So the monster itself, I wanted it to be like a shiny material. So 3 points, opens up. I'm going to create a new layer. new material, sorry, right click, rename, and I can call it this plastic red, just to do something a little bit aggressive there. I'm gonna open the asset browser, appearance, I'm gonna go to plastic or paint or whatever it is. I'm just gonna use something simple. Cut this red off, double click, comes in. And you're done with that. I'm gonna create a new one. This is gonna be for the framing. That's gonna be about black paint. So I'm gonna rename that. Black paint. Asset. I'm gonna go to paint options, the black, double click, comes in. There you go. And then I'm gonna do the glass. In this case, sorry, I just assigned here plastic red and assign here paint black. Okay, so now we can go to master glass. Here you can just use ones that exist. If you say glass, or glass, glazing. I mean, you can create your own glass if you want to as well. And then the lighting is something I want to talk about afterwards. Is the recessed lighting. I'm just going to use an emissive light. Create new material, right click, rename, light, something like that. As a browser, and there's under miscellaneous, we have, particular emissive options that you can just change the lighting to different types. So I'm going to do a light here. Double click, comes in. This allows you to give different intensities. It's thinking. So I'm double clicking and it's actually thinking, updating. It's taking a little while. Okay, so I have all of my layers with a particular material. You could say okay, and now things should come up. So I can do a rendering just to see how it goes. What is the look of this? Just as a draft. Okay, so right now it's exterior and sun only. So we want interior, sun, and artificial. Sun artificial means it has the sun condition and the artificial light as well. Send another one. Okay, so I think it works. Let me get closer to the space so we can see that it's actually working. Walk to the monster here, and here. And I'm going to open up a little bit the view to see more of that crazy thing going on. Look up. Run again. Notice how there's light coming from the interior. There's a glass thing. You can't see much of it. You see the red. There's no light in the back. So that's why this surface doesn't have much of a lighting condition. If you adjust exposure, it's going to probably burn this area too much. So what I would do is just include other lights in the interior of the space to have that shown properly. Another thing you can do to change the lighting intensity here is to go back to that lighting, object styles, import it, and go to the light component. And maybe from that particular lighting, you can go to a different one of emissive qualities that is less aggressive, no? Because what we chose is that this particular lighting, you might want to choose like a dimmer option, double click. It's updating. Okay, okay, okay. And in theory, this should get the job done, no? That's a little less light. You can always change other type of lightings. If you want color lighting, for example, the same way, you will always go to the object styles, imported objects, and click that with 3 points here. I actually, for whatever reason, I have another one here in green. This is another of the emissive options that are there. You can apply to that. And then you can render again and you see how the difference happens. Let's go. Now we're getting to something. If imagine you want a very narrow vision of that detail, just frame it a bit better. You might want to take the person, for example, the rosa person next to the frame and on height, and then go back to the view. Go. And when you know you have a correct camera shot, then you still work with draft and then you take it to the higher resolution. There you go. A little bit of exposure, maybe brighter, not so much. If you want to emphasize the color there, and then you take it to a more of a high option. Of course, there are many things that need to be dealt with, but I think this is some good explanation of what I intended to do.